In this video, I will be showing you the ins and outs of how I took a plain Jane old flimsy piece of steel and turned it into an inexpensive and fantastic piece of camping gear that you can make with very little skill or tools needed. Make this griddle to very cheaply add an awesome upgrade to your bushcraft and camping gear. Alright, let's get right into it, guys. Alright, y'all, so what we're going to need from the store is some 1/4-inch steel rod, some brass, or could be copper or steel, 1/8-inch pin stock, and our sheet of steel. This is 22 gauge. I bought a 12 by 24-inch piece. They sell them in 6 by 18s, which is big enough if you just want to make a smaller one. I wanted to make one that was at least 12 inches long and probably 6 inches wide is what I'm going to go with. So doing that, I'll be able to make 3 of them out of this if I choose to do that. So what we're going to do is 12-inch wide this way. I'm just going to make some 6-inch marks. Connect the dots. Now, of course, you can cut this with an angle grinder, but this being pretty thin, it's only probably 30 thou or so. I'm not sure exactly what 22 gauge is. According to these calipers, we're, about 28 thou. So it's pretty thin. It's going to be a little bit tough to cut with the snips, but absolutely doable. I'm just going to use the snips. That way I don't have to make a bunch of dust and noise with the angle grinder right now, and we will get started. Now, the way Luke made his on the Outdoor Boys channel is he just left his square and started peening it directly from that point. I'm actually going to go ahead and round the corners ahead of time. So we're going to use a template of some kind, which I haven't found yet, but let's see what we got. Anything laying around just to make a radius, a corner radius, will be just fine. I'm just going to go ahead and knock my corners off while I'm here. That's something like a, 1/2-inch radius maybe with this little measuring glass that I use for mixing up Cerakote. All right, there we go. Now, this steel is pretty malleable right now. It bends and stays bent. It's not a huge issue. What I'm going to start doing is taking the ball peen and peening all about 1/2 inch around the perimeter, all the way around. What that's going to do is it's going to curl this this metal up, kind of dish it a little bit. We may have to do some flattening of it as a whole, later. We probably will have to, but it's not a big deal. Now, I'm not going to use my table saw base for this. You can use pretty much anything you want. If you've got an old rock, you can use a rock. If you're doing this at camp, like Luke has done recently, this is a roller out of a backhoe somebody gave me. It's a great anvil. This one is just like some old cold rolled steel that's been surface ground on 2 sides. It doesn't have to be this either. You can use whatever you've got. I have an anvil here, so I'm going to take it over to the anvil and do it on the anvil over there. Let's go. Okay. Another thing you can do is peen this whole surface. Of course, it's bending, we'll have to straighten it. You can peen this whole surface and have a textured finish that should theoretically have less surface contact with the food to keep the food from sticking less. We're going to do an oil treatment on this that should work just fine without texturing for a non-stick coating. Whew! It's crazy how much that stiffens this up. All right, we'll straighten that up, get our handles put on it, start the seasoning process. All right, so what we're going to use for the handle material, we'll put a little D-shaped handle, or C-shaped, I guess, handle here and here, is this 1/4-inch steel rod. So I'm going to assume probably 1 inch of it on the actual griddle body to have a place to put my rivet in. And I'll make it stick out 1.5 inches. So inch plus 1.5 inches. is 2.5 plus, let's see, 3 inches is enough. So 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5 plus 3 is 8. So I'll cut 2 8-inch pieces out of this. You can use simple hand tools to clean all this stuff up, just using files to make sure you have no sharp edges. Nothing that you touch should be sharp. For that matter, you can even use your angle grinder, clean it off. I'm going to go use my belt sander instead, real quick. Alright, so I'm going to bend this at 2.5 inches so that we got an inch sticking on the body of the griddle and an 1.5 inches sticking off that we can get our fingers in to be able to pick it up. So rather than bending this tab here all the way square, which would be more like, you know what I mean, something like that, I'm going to leave it at a little bit of an angle just because I think it looks better. We're going to go with it like that. Now, something that is going to be important is to ensure, which we can straighten it out later if we have to, we want these to bend perfectly parallel to each other. So this one and this one to bend in line with each other so they're not, you know, got a twist in them or anything. And it's pretty close. If it's not close, we'll put it on the anvil and flatten it up here in a little bit. Actually, we can even do it in the vise too. So more than one way to skin a cat. Ask your local Chinese buffet. All right, I can live with that. That looks pretty good. Enough that I can get my fingers in there to pick it up easy. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat this first inch up and forge it. If none of you guys have ever done any forging, this is about as simple as it can possibly get. You can do it in your campfire. You can do it probably on your grill, no thicker than this is, or just use a blowtorch like I'm going to do. We're going to forge the flat on that we can drill through to put our rivet in to rivet this onto the body of the griddle. All right, that'll do. That's still a little bit warm, so I'm going to go ahead and just use the vice grips to be able to keep rolling. Okay, number 1 is done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a bend this direction so that the handle sticks up off the griddle a little bit as well, and we'll go do that in the bench vise real quick. Ow, that side's still hot. Yo! Whole thing's still hot. Alright, so we got our 2 little handles done here. And what I'm going to do next is mark some holes with a punch. And drill a couple holes to get our rivet process started and get these attached to the griddle body. So if you've got one of these automatic center punches, it makes it really nice. It's not necessary, but it makes it really easy to mark holes when they work. Like, almost didn't work for a second. You can do that. Puts a little mark. And if you need it to be deeper so that your drill bit will grab, you can just use a regular old center punch. I have become pretty fond of repurposing old Allen wrenches. I think this is, yeah, it's 5/16 Allen wrench into center punches whenever I break one, which was pretty frequent whenever I done tool and die. We'd break, especially my 5/16 one, quite a lot for 3/8 bolts. This one's not a great one. It dulls too fast. The tip just flattens out. This was an actual drive pin punch that I'd use for driving dowels out of stuff. It broke. It actually makes a pretty decent center punch. So rather than buy them, I just use what I got laying around. That opens the hole up just a little bit, makes it a little easier for your drill bit to get in and not walk around. All right. Let's drill. I bought these copper rivets to try. They didn't come with washers, and they're hollow in the end, so I'm not exactly sure how they work. I'm going to check the diameter of them. I think they're 1/8 inch, 125 thou. All right, so I found a bit here that is 11/64, and it's measuring, with these calipers, about 173, 174, somewhere in there. It's quite a bit overkill, but when I check it with the diameter of this rivet right here, it's not bad. It's definitely smaller than the head, and it's going to be smaller than the rivet once I flare the rivet out on the other side. So I'm going to try it and see what happens. Tap Magic, best drilling fluid, cutting fluid, tapping fluid that I have ever used. It's worth the money, and it's really not that expensive for a bottle like this, and it'll last forever. Get you some. If you do any kind of metal work, you're going to want some. It makes your drill bits seem sharper, and I'm not exaggerating at all. It's just really, really good stuff. All right. Hit that real quick with a countersink to break the corners on those holes. Now we need to transfer the hole locations for these handles onto our griddle, drill our griddle, then we can start riveting them on. There's a couple different ways that you can go about putting this on. You want the handles on top or the handles on bottom. Luke done his on top. The only issue I see with that, and it's not really a big issue, is just that you lost a little bit of your cooking surface there. So I think I'm going to put them on the bottom. Do it on the bottom side. And I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to do it by eye. Call it good. Just marking the holes with the drill bit. It will be close enough. I don't know if you can see the little marks or not. There is one right there and one right there. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Got it drilled. Looks like we're making a license plate. So I think I'm going to put the clean side on the top. The clean side of the rivet on the food surface side, cooking surface side, flared side on the bottom. You can use your ball peen to round this head over. It's called peening a pin, and basically this is just a pin now, just like anything else, so really no big deal. That's already pretty tight in there. I'm going to go ahead and peen that head on over, make a nice tight fit on there. So I'm going to cut a board that's the length from where the bend starts here to where the bend starts here. Set it down over that, and then I should be able to flatten it without affecting my turned up edges. So let me find a board, and we'll try that. All right, there's a board. And I'm going to call it 10.5 inches. 10.5. Let's try this again. Put that on there, just like so it's not affecting my bends. See if we can get that to flatten out. And that should help with the stiffness of it. Yeah, not too bad. I'm pretty well happy with that. Now, I don't think the oven is going to get hot enough to get the blue heat that I want on it at 450. But I'm going to try it and see. All right, so it's a new day. And we put this in the temper oven at 450 to see if we get the blue color. Obviously, it didn't because that's more like around 500, 550, somewhere in there. We did get like a nice straw brown, which is a good looking color on here as well. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and heat this up to get the blue color, and I'll probably just use the torch for that. Get that blue oxide on there, and then we're going to beef tallow it and do it again. But something that I forgot yesterday to do with these handles is that I wanted to experiment making a cool touch handle with a spring of some sort. You know, like on a wood stove, they have, you got your handle, but then they've got that big fat spring over the top that is really what you grab because heat's transferring through here and making this hot, but that spring, in theory, should help keep the handle cool enough that you can grab it and open it up. Well, I'm going to experiment using these door stops here and see if we can make that happen. So I know that I've made it harder on myself because I've already forged these flats in. So it's going to be harder to get this on. And so probably what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut them off. So I think I'm going to take these to the grinder, put some more taper on these to thin them down a little bit. All right, so while I'm in here, I'm also going to go ahead and bend some more angle on these because I didn't like how they were sitting on the griddle. I want them to kick up a little bit more so that they're a little bit easier to grab. All right, of course, we got to rivet these back on. I like it. Torch time. All right, that's pretty much what I want right there. Let's go get the beef tallow and we'll get that thing in the oven seasoning up. All right, so what we got here is some beef tallow that I rendered up. It's not hard to do. It's not necessary either. You could just use olive oil, peanut oil, or whatever, just whatever you got. But beef tallow has a pretty high smoke point, 400 degrees. Olive oil smoke point's around 375. So I'm going to go with this just because I've got it. But use whatever you have on hand. Don't take a whole lot. Just a light coating on the whole thing. And we'll bake it on. And then do some more later. All right, so the griddle just got done in the oven for the third time. Put 3 coats of the beef tallow on there. Got it all burned on, baked on. There's still some residue on there, which is the first time that I've seen that after, about 30 minutes each time at 450. So what I'm thinking that may be happening here is that those other coatings have already baked on, and somehow this last third coating isn't soaking in because it's sitting on the surface, kind of. So maybe we're right where we want to be with it. All right, y'all. I am very happy with the way this turned out. So don't be afraid to jump in and start something like this. This is about the easiest metalworking project that you can get into. Very cheap and inexpensive, and I think it's going to work really well. The next time you guys will see it, we'll be in the woods. All right, y'all. We're out of the shop and into the woods. Just done an overnighter out here. The snow's starting to come down. I was hoping it'd be down in the evening so I'd wake up to it. But the way the forecast fell, it's just now starting to hit. And I didn't eat nothing last night for supper. So it's time for some bacon. We're gonna do that on our little homemade griddle. All right, so we got the long log fire going on here. It's a little muddy down here in the bottom of this, where this root ball fell out. We're gonna start some bacon. All right, y'all, the little homemade griddle on its maiden voyage. All right, it's looking good. It ain't gonna take long. If y'all are interested in how I made this little DIY hatchet from Menards that I bought for $12.99 and remade into a really nice piece, I'll leave links to the full videos in the description down below. Now, of course, this isn't the best cooking fire. It's too hot. I'm trying to pull the coals around to make it work right. But a hungry man just can't hardly wait. The bacon didn't hardly stick at all. And that piece right there was so hot on the end it fried on that skillet. I didn't even really need to flip it. I could eat it. I could have ate it right off the thing. So what I'm trying to say is, it was so hot that I basically just burnt the bacon onto the griddle, and it still didn't stick. Just the slightest bit of picking up the edges with the fork, and it popped right up. Pretty happy with that. Snowflakes are getting bigger and bigger. It'll be time to wrap it up pretty soon and get out of here before I get snowed in. I meant to save this until later for in the car or maybe on the hike out, but I rolled it over and it hit something on the side of my pistol. You can see the pistols. You might be able to see that. Got some wet spots on it. Well, that is NOS. I don't know what it hit, but it hit something sharp on there and punctured, so I had to enjoy ahead of time from the side. All right, not perfectly cooked bacon. Fire was not quite right for that, but I like the griddle. It packs small in my bag. Usually I just slide it right into the hydration sleeve on the back side of my pack. Stays out of the way, nice and neat. Cook my bacon and it's ready to eat. If you guys enjoyed this, got any value out of it, learn how to make your own, or have any questions, hit me up in the comments down below. Hit that like and subscribe button, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Lord, for a good day.